This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Called Steve Austin blasphemous.
All right, let's talk about it. It's October 27th. If you want to watch this on the network, and I highly recommend it. Even if you're not a Jeff Jarrett fan, man, this is history. Go watch it. October 20th, 1997. He cuts a promo on everybody, including Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff. He says something like he refused Bischoff's offer, and he got mad at what Bischoff said about pulling the offer off the table. The live crowd probably doesn't follow what he's doing here, and it gets a nominal reaction. He says he's one of the youngest and most talented workers in WCW, but they held him back. That he had to work with a football player that doesn't know how to lock up, and whose wife gives the new meaning to the word dumb blonde, which is kind of fun considering that Deborah would go on to be his manager. He said Bischoff held him back out of ignorance and inexperience, but then he rips on McMahon for the country music gimmick and said he had his first go around here and that gimmick sucked. And when he was in the WWF, he had to work with a drug addict, a black man who couldn't speak English, and a clown. And McMahon didn't use him right because he knew that his father was the only promoter McMahon couldn't put out of business. And then he challenged Brett, Shawn, and Austin. He tells Vince to take With My Baby Tonight and stick it up his butt. And he says that Austin says ass to get a reaction, but he'd always be the ringmaster. And he says Austin 316 is blasphemous and it offends him. And I mean, this thing goes on and on and on. And allegedly, Vince Russo has said in an interview that he wrote this entire promo for Jeff, but that Jeff on his own went back and added this Austin 316 stuff about it being blasphemous. Now that's at least Russo's testimony. Russo asked if he thought he should run it by Steve first, but Jeff said he thought Austin would be good with it. And Russo allegedly told Steve that he stood next to Russo while Jeff was saying this. And when Jeff came to the back, Austin got in his face, and Russo said he's never seen anyone backpedal as fast as Jeff did. And of course, this is probably when Austin is about as hot as he was going to be able to get on his ascent. We're still a few months from him winning the world title, but in October of 97, he's over like a rover. You were there. Tell me what you remember about this interview, the promo, what was written, what wasn't, and the whole Austin 316 fiasco.
Well, Russo wrote it, and so I credit him and I blame him. As far as the Austin 316 comment, if Jeff ran that by Russo and Russo didn't run it by Austin, then I blame him. If he knew about it and he didn't run it by Austin and he's taking Jeff's word for Austin will be okay with it, then he's a dumbass and he should have asked. So all the heat there for the promo goes on Russo, including the fact that it was 12 minutes too long. He didn't know how to write a television show. He didn't know how to time a television show. And he's put in that position. Know what the hell you're doing or don't do it. So as far as all of that goes, I got to blame Russo because at this point, Jeff was doing his promo, what he was given to do in his new job, in his new old company all over again. But Austin was livid would be an understatement.
Were you in the back in Gorilla when this confrontation happens?
I was in Gorilla, but I wasn't there when Steve got to Jeff.
What did you hear about that confrontation?
I heard pretty much what you read about Jeff backpedaling and begging off, but Steve told him in no uncertain terms, leave me out of your shit. Don't ever mention my name again type thing. But Steve was pissed. See, and rightfully so, man. There was going to be no issue with Steve and Jeff. No need to go there. It was just a way to try and get himself over. So yeah, Steve was livid.
There's rumor and innuendo that Austin had a run through Memphis and didn't feel like Jerry handled him right or paid him right. And then this Austin 316 thing is just enough for him to be reassured he wants nothing to do with working with Jarrett. Is that the way you remember it?
That's correct. As the story goes, Steve got his check in Memphis, Tennessee, and was looking at it and staring at his check, not believing how small it was. And as the story goes, Jeff patted him on the back, says, "You can stare at it all you want. Ain't going to get any bigger." Or staring at it ain't going to make it bigger.
And that's a Jeff Jarrett line to Steve Austin before Austin is Stone Cold.
As the story goes, yeah.
And now all these years later, that Stone Cold is the hottest act in wrestling, and Jarrett has conned Vince McMahon, or talked his way back into the good graces for a third time after walking out twice before. He goes on TV without a contract and goes against script and goes into business for himself.
See, I'm not buying the against script.
You think that
I'm
Russo
still not
wrote
buying that to this day? I believe Russo knew, and that Russo probably wrote it. And the fact that Russo admitted that Jarrett ran it by him, he knew. So that's his fault. That's not going against script when you tell the guy, "What if I say this?" and they say, "Okay." That's not going against script. He got approval.
Either way, though, he tried to work his way into an angle with Austin without any sort of heads up to Austin, which really technically, and I want to make sure everybody's understanding this, Austin 316 at the time is the hottest t-shirt in the business, right?
That's an understatement, yes.
So when you're going to go on TV, and this is a guy's biggest source of his income, and you're all of a sudden going to introduce to this crowd, who's probably by and large wearing that shirt, "Hey, what you're wearing is blasphemous, and it offends me because it's against God." Now, that may have crossed your mind before you brought that shirt, but you damn sure don't want to rub their nose in it. Is that fair to say, Bruce?
Man, it just was wrong on all fronts. You don't fuck with the golden goose.
Let my family save your family some cash. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket, but we will save you money. It's not a matter if, it's a matter of how much. SaveWithConrad.com. All right, let's run another timeout right now. Press that pause button and let's talk about, you can't help yourself, man. If you hadn't dropped that whole blasphemous line, do you think it would have made a difference, or is the backstory the real story?
That's why you get paid the big bucks. Good question. Was this the icing on the cake, the final straw, if you will? Only one person can answer that. That's Steve.
Yeah.
But that's a good question. I really don't know. I kind of think the timing of it was because business was so hot and he was so hot.
Yep.
And I don't really think once the crap went downhill, you couldn't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But had he known the entire sort of backstory of the last, whatever it was, 24, 48 hours of the promo and how it was scripted and by design and how it was originally written, I don't even know if you know this story, Conrad, but originally Russo had it written as Bret Hart. I think it went wrapping up that promo and everything that went into it. But, knock Austin, knock Shawn, knock Bret. And I said, I'm just telling you. I said, I want to save Austin to the very end. I said, he's red hot and the people will come unglued. I said, because I'm going to punch him, not figuratively. I'm going to punch it right up there. I literally, how naive I have been throughout my career. I literally I was grinning from ear to ear. This is going to be a hell of a way to send this promo home. Not thinking one thing that it would strike a nerve. Not one. Look, I've been around a few years at this time. Okay, come in the territory the first night and piss off the hottest babyface in the territory. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Of course it does. When you think logically through it, oh, why'd you do that? Well, I'm trying to get heat, you moron. You know what I'm saying? What do you think I'm going to come in and do this? It just makes no logical sense. But of course, the narrative. But I do think, again, over communicating, had I do it over again, if I would have just gone up to Steve and said, "Hey, man, this is how it's laid out, and I'm going to flip it. I'd like to save you for last, and here's why, and did this." And he could either smiled and said, "Oh, this is great," or "F you, don't you dare say that." And I'll say, "Yeah, that was a dumb idea. Let's move on." You know what I'm saying? It's but again, I'm going to go back. That's why my ears over communicate. You're going to find that out as my business partner, that you're going to say, if this guy texts me one more time, I'm going to throw up. But no. Anyway, that's I can't wait to get into these kind of stories on my world. I really can't, because when I've heard this story repeated over and over and over, and we'll get into all the backstory, it's not like I was out to lunch and just gonna by design piss off the top babyface. Who would do that?
Nobody. I bet there's a story about Evansville, Indiana in there somewhere, but you'll have to check out my world for that. It starts May 4th.
When you hear that one, you will, A, you're going to chuckle. B, you're going to go, oh, huh. Oh, anyway, I will say that. It's a good one. It's a good story.
I bet you $210 is the best story we tell that week. Check it out. May 4th, we'll be back with My World. But right now, a little something to wrestle with Jeff Jarrett.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.